My name is Faustine Chan. I'm the BBB Innovation Manager for BBB serving the Pacific Southwest. And today's webinar is how to use digital audio for your small business as part of our Ignite Your Mind Summer webinar series. And we hold our webinar series twice a week. So if you're interested in attending future webinars or past webinars, all the information is located on events.bbcommunity.org. We have a fantastic speaker today from AudioGo. We have Ian Murphy, who's the Senior Manager of Business Development, which is a local, AudioGo is a local digital audio advertising platform. He is passionate about helping business owners succeed and has worked with local businesses his entire life, including his own parent's business, who has become successful online as well. He's enjoyed working with local businesses and technology partners to help businesses reach and achieve their goals. So please welcome our speaker today, Ian Murphy.
Thanks so much, Faustine. Appreciate the introduction there, and hello, everybody. Thanks for taking the time out of your day to come learn a little bit about digital audio. I'm certainly excited to show you how it all works and kind of really what's going on with digital audio and how you can take advantage of it as a local business. And then I'll kind of show you our platform, AudioGo. So I'll just kind of hop right into it here. So what we'll take a look at today is the digital audio opportunity. So first we'll take a look at kind of why it's an opportunity for you to take advantage of and kind of how things have progressed in the digital audio space. I mean, for the last 5-10 years, things have really grown. It's become a very comprehensive media, not only for listeners, but also for advertisers, and becoming very effective for businesses to reach consumers. So I'll talk about that. Also, I'll talk about a little bit of digital audio in 2020, kind of this new normal we're all becoming more accustomed to every day as the days kind of blend together. So we'll talk a little bit about what's going on today with digital audio, and also we'll talk about the best practices for digital audio advertising. So kind of what we recommend to really take advantage of the opportunity and how to use the medium effectively. Then we'll take a look at the AudioGo platform itself. So we'll jump right in, and I'll kind of tell you kind of all the benefits and how to use it. I'll give you some examples of local businesses who have been using the platform and some success that they've seen. And then I'll go through a brief demo of the platform itself. It's really straightforward, designed to be that way. So I'll show you how to use it, and then we also have a special offer at the end of the call that I'll talk through as well. So first, it's important to understand, really what is digital audio. And so when we talk about digital audio, as you can see on here, there's a lot of different things. I mean, if you think about traditional radio, right, when you're listening to radio in your car, right, that's one way that people have consumed audio in the past. But digital audio encompasses a lot more, right? So digital audio takes the form of streaming on sites like Pandora, Spotify as an example. There's also online radio stations for iHeartRadio, TuneIn, online local news stations. Of course, there's also podcasts as well. So things like NPR, Daily, Apple Podcasts, where you get podcasts there. It's also something that people consume on smart speakers. So you can literally speak to Alexa, Google Home, or Sonos and ask them to queue up your favorite music or queue up some podcasts. And this also takes the form of connected devices. So for example, connected cars via Bluetooth, Apple Play, same goes for smart fridges, smart devices. So digital audio is really this kind of umbrella for all these different outlets. And when we talk about digital audio, what really makes it different is really that first word. It's the digital piece of it. So in the same way, when you think of digital display or other forms of digital advertising, now with digital audio, you can kind of capitalize on some of those same benefits and even more. So what makes it different is it's targeted. You can choose who you want to reach, and I'll show you more in a minute, but you can get down to, let's say females age 25 to 45 in Salt Lake City area, or a particular zip code in Salt Lake City, who listen to Top 40, right? So it's very, very targeted, and it's also very personalized. Right? These listeners are listening to their favorite music, their favorite podcasts. They really associate with that on a sort of personal brand level. And so the messaging can be very, very personalized, very direct. And again, because it's digital, it's also very measurable. So you can go ahead and actually measure the results. You can measure how many ads have been delivered for you, to measure how many unique listeners that you've reached, clicks even as well. So it's very comprehensive. You can understand what's going on with your advertising efforts and really reach the right audience for you. And so now that we kind of talked through a little bit about what is digital audio, it's important to note that audio is really an integral part of our everyday lives. I mean, if you think about the, kind of typical waking up, right? You snooze the alarm on the smartphone speaker, or excuse me, on your smartphone, and then maybe you go, while you're getting ready, you go click on your smart speaker, start listening to some news or kind of some daily information of what's going on in your community. Then maybe you're driving to work, and whether you're listening to music or listening to your favorite podcast while you're driving to work, and then once you get to work, listening to music while you're working, right? So I mean, by the time we reach lunch, I mean, we've literally consumed at least about 2 hours of audio through these various mediums. So a lot of people don't really notice it, but audio is around us almost at all times, which is part of the reason why it makes it such a great way to reach consumers in different moments during the day where we really couldn't before. And that's really what I'm touching on here. I mean, digital audio it's pervasive. It's everywhere, right? I mean, quite literally, we're in the listener's ears, and that's really a big piece of why it makes it effective. So, as I mentioned, digital audio is growing very rapidly. I mean, combining the growth of smart speakers, there's about 1 in 4 homes own a smart speaker now, as well as the kind of explosion of the growth of podcasts. Users are turning to this medium and really spending much more time. And as you can see, about 84 million people are listen to digital audio at least once a month, kind of versus the 80 million for traditional radio. So kind of starting to surpass the listenership for radio. And then Americans on average today, I think the number's even gone up, but spend over 4.5 hours listening to digital audio every single day. So it's something that people are starting to spend more time with than things like social media. And then lastly, it's effective. So not only are the users spending the time there, but the users are very, very responsive to what they hear on those mediums, even in forms of advertisements. And so Nielsen did a study kind of comparing digital audio advertisements versus display advertising, and they actually found a 24% increase in brand recall through digital audio. So it's everywhere. We're in these listeners' ears, and that's why it's so effective, because you can reach them when they're tuned in and not necessarily looking at a screen or something else. So next, I want to kind of touch on what's going on today. So I think we all can agree it's certainly the new normal, and I think it's slowly not becoming new and just the normal now, but audio has certainly kind of grown along with that. And there was thought at first that a big part of streaming and listening to audio is during the commute to work. It's during working hours. So there was a question of whether listenership may drop off, or if we may see a drop. But actually the opposite happened. As listeners are recommended to stay home, or as users are recommended to stay home, they're turning on their smart speakers. They're streaming more music. They're spending more time listening to music, listening to news, listening to their trusted talk radio or podcasts. And so that's why, as we can see, 83% of listeners say they're listening to as much or more radio as before the pandemic set in. 60% of consumers really trust that the radio or audio will deliver timely and truthful information regarding COVID. And so if you think about that, this is listeners that really trust these mediums, right? They put their trust in what they're listening to. And then about 42% of listeners say that audio or radio has really helped them deal with the current crisis. And so, of course, a lot of things going on right now, a lot of uncertainty. But it is good to see that listeners are trusting what they hear, and they're turning to audio to get their information. So now that we understand a little bit about digital audio and kind of how it's growing, how it's becoming this medium that we're all using very constantly, and how it's really effective for advertising, I wanted to kind of put a bit of a focus on why it's so strong for local businesses. And really, the main takeaway there is it allows a local business to really engage and connect with their local audience. So it allows you to reach people when screens are off, right? And so it's extremely personal and immersive experience. If you think about music, I mean, we all have favorite songs, favorite bands. These are things that takes us places, right? Maybe there's certain moments in our lives where we remember that have a certain soundtrack to. It's an extremely personal experience, and we also have their undivided attention, right? Sure, they might be on a run, they might be driving, but they're tuned into the content. And unlike other forms of advertising, right, they can't just click away. I mean, again, I know I've said it before, but we're quite literally in their ears. So we're right there at the moment that they're tuning in. And now with digital, I mean, with radio, it's great, right? No, nothing wrong with the radio. You can reach people while they're commuting to work, and the station will likely tell you, hey, here's the demographics of our listeners. But the great thing about digital audio is you could be very precise with your targeting. So as I mentioned with that previous example, you can target specific age groups, specific gender, specific genres, specific content type, as well as specific location. You have options, that range down to the zip code level. So you can very, very precisely reach your local audience and engage with them. And then another key thing about the digital piece is it's measurable, right? Kind of going back to that first slide, you can really understand how many ads have been delivered for you. How many unique listeners have we reached? How many people have clicked onto the display ad, or how many people have picked up the phone and given us a phone call? So there's a lot of great things you can do in terms of measurement and measuring your success. And that's really, these are kind of like the four big benefits of digital audio for a local business. And so it's a great platform or a great medium for local businesses. But I did want to quickly touch on, some of the best practices, because similar to other marketing, there's ways that you can really take advantage of it if you set it up correctly. And so with audio, and really almost with any marketing, one of the first things you want to do is define your goal. So with digital audio, you can kind of run campaigns in sort of two broad different ways. You could do more of a reach campaign that's saying, hey, I want to reach as many individuals as possible within this certain targeting. I want to reach these many unique individuals. And that'll kind of increase your reach campaign. Or you could do things like awareness, where you want to drive awareness to a certain subset of listeners, or maybe it's your local community. And you're saying, hey, I want to reach listeners aged 25 to 45 in these 5 zip codes in this county who are listening to this type of content. So you want to make sure that you define your goal first and foremost and understand what you're looking to do, because that'll inform the next piece here, which is going to be choosing your audience. So of course, we want to make sure that we're targeting the right listeners, and that you're cognizant of who you should be reaching. And so that's going back to the reach and awareness piece. With the reach side of it, you likely would choose more broad targeting. So you'd want a broader audience because you want to reach more unique individuals. And then on the awareness side, that's really, as I mentioned, where you'd focus down into a particular area or different criteria. And then the third piece, after you've defined your goal, decided who the right listeners are, who you want to reach, when you're actually creating the ad, it's really important to have a unique and specific call to action, because that's ultimately what's going to drive conversions. I mean, if you think about it, if you create an audio ad that says, hello, we're Tony's Pizza, we make great pizza, how do they know where to go or what to do, right? So it's very important to include a unique, specific call to action, and it's really important to have it be unique to audio. This really helps you with tracking. If you have the ability to include for example, a call tracking number that's maybe unique to this campaign, or a unique URL or landing page, you can absolutely include that and should include that as your call to action, so that we can really drive conversions, let listeners know where to go. And this falls into that last piece here, which is really tracking performance. With a really strong, unique call to action, that'll help you track how many listeners are converting into new customers, right? And that's the great thing about digital audio, is because you can really track and measure everything. So with the platform that I'll show you in a moment, you'll be able to track in real time how many ads have been delivered, how many unique listeners you've reached, as well as a couple of different conversion metrics. Again, I'll get to that in detail in a moment, but these are kind of the 4 best practices that I would recommend. Make sure you understand what you're trying to achieve, who you need to target. Make sure to create a very specific and unique call to action that's really unique to audio in order to drive conversions, and then make sure that you're set up to track that success. So now that we've looked at kind of, why digital audio is beneficial for local businesses, kind of some of the best practices. I mean, just to kind of recap here, digital audio, it's directly one-on-one messaging and one-on-one targeting versus kind of a broader one-to-many message that you might have with terrestrial radio. Audio allows you to create a very personalized experience and connect with people over the course of their day in kind of the key moments that matter. So unfortunately, as a local advertiser, up until just recently, you wouldn't really be able to buy audio advertising or digital audio on premium digital radio stations unless you reach large minimum spends. A lot of these groups would effectively say, hey, unless you're able to spend $5,000 with us, we're unable to work with you at this time. But that's changed as of late, and as digital audio has grown. So I'd like to introduce AudioGo. So AudioGo is a self-serve digital advertising platform for digital audio that allows you to create digital campaigns whenever you need and on your own time. So the good thing about AudioGo is it allows you to advertise across Pandora, iHeart, and other premium radio stations and publishers, all with just a $250 minimum spend. So that's the only spend requirement you'll have with us at AudioGo. There's no long-term commitments, no monthly spend requirements, anything like that. It's just $250 per campaign. And the great thing there, at that $250 level, we're actually going ahead and be able to deliver about 14,000 audio ads based on to the audience of your choosing. So it's a lot of exposure at a great price point. And we also realize that, not everyone has a professional digital or radio audio ad lying around, right? Or maybe they don't have the means to produce that. And so we've actually partnered with a professional voiceover group, so we can provide that for you. So we can make audio ads for you, and they're professional audio ads for as little as $10. And again, I'll show you all this in detail in a moment here. So you get a great range of publishers that you can advertise on. And not only that, but as I was touching on in terms of the targeting capabilities with digital audio, with AudioGo, you have all the control that you need to reach your audience. So you could target by age, gender, location. And in the location, we have a lot of different options. You can get as granular as this down to a zip code or a handful of zip codes. Then you work your way up to the state level and pretty much everything in between. We offer city targeting, county level targeting, DMAs or MSAs, which are kind of greater market areas. Think of putting a few counties together, if you will. And so you can do a blend of all these, a lot of different ways for you to reach your local audience. Moving forward, you can also target by the time of day. So you can decide if you want the ad to run on certain days and times of the week. You can also target listeners by language. So we do offer Spanish as well. You'll see on the right Entravision, which is the largest Hispanic audio network in the United States. So we actually have a lot of Spanish listening inventory that you can reach. And then lastly, of course, since it is digital audio, you can target by genre or content type. So you can choose your kind of typical music genres, or you can also choose what we call talk content. So that's talk radio, and podcasts are included in that as well. So a lot of different tools to allow you to reach your audience. And it's very easy to get started with AudioGo. It's self-serve. You don't need to pick up the phone and call someone. You could run campaigns as you see fit. And of course, we'll provide all the support that you need to do so and to be successful in doing so. But you can get a campaign up and running in as little as 5 minutes. Then you have your real-time dashboard, which you can kind of see on the right here. And I'll show us a detailed example in a moment. But you get to see your real-time dashboard, which gives you progress against how much of your budget you've spent, how many unique listeners that you've reached, number of ads that have been delivered. And then, as I mentioned, some of these conversion rates, the listen-through rate and click-through rate as well. And we actually have some deeper campaign level reporting that I'll show in the demo. Then the last thing I wanted to point out is you also get some extra features with AudioGo. So when you're building your campaign, you'll be in the know the entire way through. You'll be able to know how many estimated ads are going to be delivered based off the budget and campaign schedule you set, as well as your targeting, how many unique listeners that you're going to reach, as well as some tips and tricks on how to make the most of your targeting. Our system will let you know if the targeting seems a bit too broad or too narrow. And then we have some other tools to make it easier for you to replicate campaigns. We have a duplicate campaign feature. We're releasing a save draft feature, as well as you can pause your campaigns at any time and make changes. So you're not locked into anything with AudioGo and have a lot of options. did want to point out this quote from Cedar Point Health, which is a medical facility who's been working with us since the beginning of the year. And they just had a great experience. What they mentioned was this was the first time that they actually had friends and family letting them know that they had heard the ad, and they got great exposure. They were easy to, they thought the data was really helpful in guiding them for future campaigns. And they mentioned that this really does give them the bang for their buck, and they're going to continue to use the platform. So just one example of someone who's really seen the value and who's had a good experience. And I'll also show you a couple others in a moment as well. So that's kind of the basics of AudioGo. Now here's a couple different examples that I wanted to highlight. So here's a local plumber. It's Valley Plumbing. They're out in Utah, who really wanted to extend their current reach. They were doing some other advertising, whether it's offline and online, a combination of both. But they wanted to kind of reach their different local service areas, and they wanted an outlet that would really complement the other efforts that they're doing. And so what they did was they found us at AudioGo, and they gave it a test, and they used AudioGo to reach their local community in Utah. And they targeted listeners based off location, their age, and genre as well. And what they've done a great job of, after they run a campaign, if they see some success in a certain genre or see that a lot of listeners are a part of that particular genre, then in their next campaign, they go ahead and kind of optimize in that way. And so they've been seeing some very good results, and they continue to work with us for that reason. And I also wanted to real quickly play their ad, as it was a really great example of kind of including that call to action, talking about their different services. So we'll take a quick listen to their ad.
Hey, Ian, do you have the volume turned up? I don't hear anything.
Oh, sorry about that, Faustine. You're saying you don't hear anything?
Yeah, the sound's not coming through.
Okay, let me try this instead.
And drain cleaning, a company you can trust. From clogged drains to your water heater, you can trust Valley Plumbing to make sure your home is taken care of. When you see the truck with the duck, you know you are in good hands. Call us today at 385-276-4291 or visit us at www.valleyplumbing.com for our most recent offers.
Thanks, Faustine. Yeah, sorry about that. But hopefully you all were able to hear that they did a great job of including the different call to actions that they had for their phone number. And they even included the branding piece about the truck with the duck, which is part of their brand in their community. And so they, again, seeing some great success with AudioGo, and they're kind of continue to include it as a part of their marketing mix because of that, and how it really complements their other efforts. So the next example I wanted to show is actually a cosmetology school. It's part of Paul Mitchell Schools. And while, of course, Paul Mitchell is a large brand, I'm not going to say they're a small business by any means, but the reason I wanted to highlight this example is it was a handful of local schools in the Utah area that wanted to kind of work together on this campaign. And so the whole idea there was they were promoting a new tuition grant to overall increase their enrollment numbers. And one great thing they did here, which really helped them track and attribute success, was they created a unique landing page specific to AudioGo, which allowed them to really track conversions. And so what they ended up doing was setting up a $6,000 campaign for a 30-day runtime, and they saw some really great results. And I think a really big piece of that goes back to the offering they had in their audio ad that was really enticing, along with this kind of unique landing page that helped them track conversions. And so what they found was they had 147 new website visitors and 3 new students directly attributed to their AudioGo campaign, not any of the other initiatives that they were doing. And with this cosmetology school, tuition is about $17,000 per student. So by receiving 3 students, they saw a massive return on their investment with AudioGo. So let's take a listen to their ad as well to hear kind of some of the best practices that they were using.
You love empowering others to embrace their unique style. Now, how do you turn your creativity into a dream career? Enroll now in the cosmetology program at Paul Mitchell The School, located in Logan, Ogden, Salt Lake City, and Provo. We are offering $1 million in scholarships, and financial aid is available to those who qualify. So don't miss this incredible opportunity to start your new career. Learn more by going to paulmitchell.edu/Pandora.
Great. So as you can hear, they had that specific URL. And I mean, of course, $1 million is very enticing, but I think that the general idea there is to make sure that the audio ad has something that kind of pulls the listener in. And then you also want to make sure you have that unique, not only call to action, but unique URL, or maybe it's a call tracking phone number, whatever we can do to make it so easier to go ahead and track the success of the campaign. So next, what I'd like to do is give you a quick platform demo. So I'll go ahead and exit PowerPoint and jump into the demo here. All right. So I want to just kind of show you how the platform works in real time. And so first and foremost, you go to audiogo.com. And then once you're here, you go ahead and click on this sign up button. Very typical sign up process: first name, last name, email, password, and then we'll go ahead and send you a coupon, or a code, excuse me, that'll allow you to get logged in. Once you've gone ahead and done that, it'll go ahead and take you to your dashboard. So when you first start with AudioGo, you won't see anything here, and in fact, it'll have a little helpful box that can give you a tour of the website or help you launch your first campaign. But once you're logged in, the most important things are on the top right here. So before we get started with creating a campaign, we will want to make sure to have an audio ad. If you have one, feel free to go ahead and move on to the Create New Campaign page. If not, go ahead and click this Request Audio Ad tab. So as I mentioned, we can absolutely create audio ads for you. We've partnered with a professional voiceover group, so these are very polished professional audio ads, and it's only $10 to do so. So very affordable. On the face value, these are usually about $200. And so it's easy to do. All you need to do is fill out your script. So that's 70 words maximum. Audio spots on AudioGo are 30 seconds or less. So kind of similar to those ads you heard, go ahead and fill in your call to action, all your information, that sort of thing. And we have best practices to help you with that as well, some resources. So we can absolutely share that with you. Also want to make sure you choose the language of your ad. As I kind of pointed out, we do offer the ability to target Spanish listeners. So we also wanted to be able to offer the ability to create ads in Spanish. We can certainly do that for you. The one thing to note, we do not offer translation services just yet. So you will have to, if you do need a Spanish ad, we will need that ad written out in Spanish. But just make sure you have the right language selected here. It'll default to English. Next, you have a couple different options between male and female voice type. So go ahead and make the selection that you'd like here. Then you'll want to go ahead and choose your background track. So we have a few different options, and the good thing here is you can actually click onto it and then click this button to preview the track. So you'll have a good idea of what the ad will sound like going into it. And then lastly, any instructions that you have for the voice actor. So let's say there's any special pronunciation, a specific tone you want the ad to have, or certain energy that you need. Go ahead and put that in here, and we'll pass that along to the voice actor for them to note. From there, it takes about 2 business days, or about 48 hours for us to turn the ad back around to you. Lately, it's been less, which has been great. And so then we'll send it back to you for review. And if you like it, great. We can go ahead and go back to your dashboard and click on this Create New Campaign page. If there's something off about the ad, please let us know. We'll happily revise it for you for free to make sure that the ad's right. So once you have the ad, once you feel really good about the messaging, you think the ad sounds great, next we'll click this Create New Campaign button, which is going to take you to another form here. So here, again, you just fill this in. Go ahead and fill in the name of the campaign that you want to, as well as the campaign budget. So as I mentioned, the minimum budget is 250. For the sake of example, I'm just going to put 500 in here. Then you'll go ahead and select the start and end dates of your campaign. So with AudioGo, you could run campaigns for a day, a week, a month, entirely up to you. But for the sake of example, let's go ahead and run it for a week here. And the minute you start to select your budget and campaign schedule, you'll see on the right, our audience guide will start to load. And so this is part of those extra features that I mentioned previously. Really, it's an inventory forecasting tool. So it'll allow you to see how many impressions we estimate will be delivered. In this case, 27,800 or so ads will go out at that $500 budget, as well as how many unique listeners that we anticipate that you'll reach. And I'll show you a couple scenarios in a moment where the targeting it gets more narrow, and this will change. This number on the top right is really the total market availability. So right now you're seeing almost 660 million impressions available, but that's because we're looking at all of the United States. And so as you can see, we have a lot of inventory available. So can absolutely meet the marketing needs that you have. And then the last thing to point out on this audience guide is our audience notes here. So this will let you know if your selection is too broad, too narrow, kind of if it's just right. And so definitely recommend keeping an eye on this. For example, right now we haven't selected any targeting. We have a somewhat smaller budget for a national campaign. So our system's saying, hey, we definitely recommend to narrow down your targeting as your selection is fairly broad. So you'll be informed all the way through on kind of the status of the campaign that you're setting up. Another thing that we offer is day parting with AudioGo. So you can absolutely choose the days of the week and the times of the week that you want your ad to run. A common example of this is if someone wants to reach rush hour traffic, you'll go ahead and drag and drop those hours that you feel you'd like to reach. And then your audience guide will start to update as well. So a lot of flexibility in terms of delivery. Here's where you drag and drop the audio ad itself. So after we just went through requesting an ad, this is where you place the ad. Then with AudioGo, you can also include display ads. So these are free of charge. They don't count towards your budget, but they will show up on the players of the streaming ads, streaming services or radio services for users to tap or click to learn more. So we definitely recommend including this. And we have 3 different sizes that we recommend, and we do allow you to upload 3. So definitely keep that in mind when you're setting up your campaigns. We also have this section for the destination URL. So in case, of course, we want to send people when they tap or click to a certain website. So go ahead and include that in here as well. If you did have Google Analytics set up and you want to include UTM parameters here, you can absolutely do that as well. Then lastly, and likely most important, is really defining your audience. And this goes back to kind of the choosing your audience best practice that I mentioned. So with AudioGo, as you heard, we can target by location, gender, age group, and content type. And now for location, the way it's set up is you just start typing in some information. So I'm going to type in my local zip code here. And then once you type in and make your selections, again, on the right, your audience guide will start to populate. So you'll be able to see kind of what's going on at any time. While that's loading, okay, great. So now you can see this looks a little bit different. So now we're picking a smaller zip code in the San Francisco Bay Area, actually in the city of San Francisco. And so you can see the estimated ads delivered is stayed somewhat the same because of the budget. That's really what dictates that top number. But now we're reaching about 5,100 estimated unique listeners. And this is great because now the listeners hear the ad about 5 or 6 times, which really helps with that brand recall. So this kind of goes back to the reach versus awareness campaign. This is a good example of an awareness campaign where it's a very specific audience. I'm just reaching a small zip code in this particular area versus a reach campaign where maybe you wanted to run statewide, right? And that'll really increase this number of unique listeners. So those are kind of the 2 different ways, or 2 of the main different ways you can use the platform. For local businesses targeting your local area, I absolutely recommend using the zip code, county, and city targeting, as that'll get you as granular as you can get and reach your local community. One other thing to note here as well is the content type. So you can absolutely target by music genre. We have about 19 core music genres to select from, as well as talk genres. So as mentioned, this includes talk radio, podcast, that type of non-musical content, and it's all broken out by category. So you can see we have a few different categories here. So a lot of users will use the content type targeting, but we also recommend, depending on your situation, if you just want to reach a local area, mainly focusing around age group and the location targeting. And this will allow you to reach listeners across different content types in your local area who might be looking for or need your services. So that's how you create a campaign. Now, once you've launched your campaign, once you've requested the ad, dropped it in here, set up your campaign. And by the way, I know we've talked through this and I explained each step, but this takes about 2 to 3 minutes once you have the audio ad. Next, what you'll want to do after you launch it is kind of track where everything's going. So that's back in your dashboard. So this is an example of what your dashboard would look like if you had multiple campaigns running. Let's just take a look at this top campaign first. So you'll be able to see which campaign you're looking at. You'll be able to see how much of your budget has been spent, and this information updates about 15 or 20 minutes, every 15, 20 minutes, so essentially in real time. You'll always be able to see how many ads have been delivered, how many unique listeners that we've reached, as well as the listen through rate, which is how many people have listened to the ad all the way through. And that's actually a real benefit of audio. As you may know from streaming, you typically can't skip through the advertisement as a free listener, which as an advertiser is great because they hear the majority of the message, right? Compared to things like YouTube, for example, where you can skip. Then we can also track the click-through rate. And this really goes back to including those display ad banners, as I mentioned. So definitely want to make sure that we can track that. Clicks aren't always the best measurement of success with an audio campaign, as you may imagine, based off the user experience, right? A lot of times people are working out, maybe they're driving, maybe they're socializing, maybe they're at work, but they're looking at a different window. So they're not always looking directly at that screen compared to something like display advertising. So that's why it's not always the best measurement of success. We can absolutely track it, but really that's the benefit of audio, right? Is audio is on when screens are off, and we can reach users at these important moments during their day. A couple more things to point out in the dashboard. As mentioned, you could start and stop campaigns at any time. You just go ahead and hit this pause button. And let's say you wanted to make some edits, or you feel like your targeting was off, you want to change out the creative, feel free to pause it, click into here, and then hit edit campaign and make your adjustments. And this is our campaign level report. So here you're able to see similar metrics at the top, but we actually break everything down on a daily basis and cut it up some other ways here as well. So you'll be able to see the daily trend of your impressions. You'll also be able to see the distribution of your impressions by content type. As I mentioned with that plumber example, once you start to see things up, most of your listeners in certain genres, you could then begin to kind of optimize based on content. Same goes for listeners. And we can also track clicks on a daily basis as well, so that you have an idea of when your clicks were occurring and how many. At the bottom left here is also this duplicate campaign feature. This is really useful if you want to set up, let's say, a few different campaigns in your local area that have either different targeting selected, or maybe you want to try different ads. You can very easily duplicate similar campaigns, make the slight edits you need, and then have that campaign launch in a matter of seconds. So that's our campaign level report, and that's our reporting. And so that's effectively the platform there. So again, designed to be very straightforward. We want to help you just have the ability to request ads, run audio campaigns as needed, and really have this complement your other marketing efforts and drive new customers to you. I'm going to jump back into the deck here just for a couple more moments. So now that we've looked at the platform, now that you've seen kind of why digital audio is really growing into this massive opportunity, and it's only continuing to grow. I mean, I oftentimes liken it to mobile advertising in the past. I mean, about 10, 15 years ago, mobile was looked at it as well as, are the screens too small? Are people going to actually want to, interact with ads on that medium? And as we all know today, most everyone, uses their smartphone probably more so than their computers, right? And audio is having a very, very similar moment. It's really growing into this medium that's becoming really effective for advertisers. It's becoming highly used by listeners. numbers are continuing to go up in terms of usage, which is really why it's a great way for you to engage with your community. So with that in mind, it's from here very easy to get started. All you need to do is go to audiogo.com/BBB Pack Southwest. Setting up your first campaign takes a matter of minutes, as we just looked at. And as a special offer for everyone attending the webinar today, you'll actually be able to get $50 off when you run your first campaign. So if you just go to the link up top, we'll be able to help you with that code, and that will account for about 5,500 of free audio ads that'll be delivered for you. So it's definitely a great time to test it out. Here's a great offer to do so. And with that, I'd like to open it up to any questions.
Yeah, so if anybody has any questions, please just type them in the chat option. So we had a question on, I own my own business and I already have a partnership with Pandora. Is there a price comparison chart online with AudioGo that I can see and compare the prices to?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I do believe there is some information online. To my understanding, with Pandora, there's a few different offerings that they have. They have a product called Audio Everywhere, as well as a couple of different products, and I certainly don't know the extent to the pricing and that information. But yeah, feel free to reach out to me. I can absolutely get you that price comparison information, and I'd be happy to talk through kind of what you're doing with Pandora now and how that all works. And for full disclosure as well, the company that owns AudioGo is AdsWiz, and we're actually a subsidiary company of Pandora, who's also owned by SiriusXM. So we're all part of this kind of larger family, if you will. So I'd be happy to take that offline and help you directly to kind of see what's best for you.
Great, thank you. Let's see, there's a question on, do you see digital audio audiences increasing as people return back to work, or do you think they will decrease?
That's a good question. Yeah. So as I mentioned, when this first kind of all started, there was a kind of looming question mark of what will happen in terms of listenership, if it's going to go up, down, stay the same. And as I mentioned, it did kind of slightly increase. Now as folks kind of go back to their normal routines, I don't foresee that being a drop in usage. If anything, it would kind of pick back up the other sections and kind of balance it out. So I wouldn't think that we'd see a drop as people go back to work. In fact, I'd imagine that we have as much or more listeners, as that's kind of been the overall trend over the last couple of years. So I know the situation's a bit different, but yeah, I would foresee that the listenership continues to grow over time.
And then we had a question on podcasts. If I were to advertise on podcasts, do I choose the type of podcasts that I can advertise my business on? How does that work?
Yeah, podcast has certainly become one of the fastest growing inquiries that we receive. A lot of people want to advertise on podcasts, and rightfully so. It's growing very fast in terms of usage, and of course, you can really align with what the subject matter is. And so the way it works out with AudioGo, when I was doing the demo, you saw those music genres and talk genres. And with talk, that's where we include our podcast. So right now, it's all broken out by category. So you wouldn't be able to choose the specific show level. Like I want to advertise on this particular show, but we do have a very comprehensive list of categories that would likely cover the subject matter that you're looking for. So that'd be the best way to go about it with AudioGo, is to use that talk content type and choose the most relevant category. And then one other thing I'd like to mention on that is, if you are using AudioGo for that, just do keep an eye on the audience guide or inventory forecasting when you're building that out, to understand how much of each category has availability in your location, if you will. So, but yes, you can target that type of content with AudioGo. It's just broken out by category.
Okay, I don't see any other questions, but I'll just give everybody maybe another minute. If they have any other questions, please make sure you type them in the chat option. But I would like to thank Ian for taking time out of your busy day to present today's webinar. Information is definitely valuable for a lot of our small businesses out there who are, looking for other advertising opportunities at this time and different avenues to invest in their business. Let's see. I don't see any more questions. So thank you everyone for attending. If you have any questions, please reach out to Ian. I will go ahead and send out the link to this recorded webinar when it is uploaded. And I will also include Ian's contact information if you do need to reach out to him. So thank you everyone for attending. Please stay safe out there and be healthy.